At one of Britain's premier aviation museums, an exhibit has confounded paranormal investigators for decades. Opened in 1979, the RAF Museum at Cosford, Shropshire, today houses dozens of aircraft that have served the United Kingdom, along with captured enemy aircraft, some famous airliners, and the National Cold War exhibition. Among this stellar cast of aircraft is an Avro Lincoln B-2 bomber, RF 398. It is said that this bomber is haunted, and a thorough investigation has led to some very interesting evidence that is hard to dismiss out of hand. RF 398 is a rare aircraft, one of just 4 examples of this late-war British bomber in existence today. The Avro Lincoln was a 4-engined heavy bomber that first flew on the 9th of June 1944. Developed from the Avro Lancaster, the Lincoln entered service in the late 1940s, but in the 1950s the RAF adopted 3 new V-bombers, advanced jet-powered strategic bombers to carry Britain's nuclear deterrent, and the Lincoln was phased out, the last of the piston-engine bombers in the RAF. RF 398 had first flown on the 11th of September 1945, but was not issued to an operational squadron until 1952. Struck from RAF service in 1963, it arrived at the then RAF Cosford in the late summer of 1968 for storage. The museum opened in 1979, but by then RF 398 was in a dilapidated condition. Mechanics started a long-term restoration. During the restoration of the aircraft, some strange occurrences were reported, including ghostly figures seen both inside and outside of the plane, strange sounds and other unexplained phenomena. It was later revealed that some of these incidents were fabricated by a couple of mischievous mechanics, but not all of them. The strange stories soon attracted paranormal investigators. It was then that things really began to get weird. In a serious effort to explain what might be at the root of the strange noises that people had heard emanating from the aircraft at night, investigators decided to place microphones in the cockpit. The first attempt was made one night in 1987. They had left a recording machine turning, left the aircraft and sealed the hangar, and returned 40 minutes later to find the top of the tape machine lifted and the tape spread about the cockpit. Researchers tried again in 1991. Microphones were again set up inside the aircraft. The hangar was evacuated and sealed, and the tapes left running. What they recorded has remained controversial, a series of clicks and other mechanical sounds quite distinct from the normal groans and creaks of the hangar cooling down or the aircraft settling at night. Let's listen to the actual sounds recorded during those investigations. Here's some of the clicks. Later recordings also picked up another strange sound. The hangar had been sealed for the night, signed tape placed over each of the doorways. On each occasion, the investigators used several different microphones and recording devices to ensure that the sounds were not faulty equipment. What follows is another mysterious recording made inside the empty aircraft at night. The recordings were played to former Lincoln aircrew. They immediately identified the clicks as the sounds of a pilot and crew undertaking standard pre-flight preparations. But what about that strange whining sound? It was eventually identified as the sound of a piece of navigational equipment called console. None have been operational since 1956, begging the question of how a hoaxer could have fabricated the specific sound the equipment made. So what could be the cause? It was said that the last pilot who flew RF 398 loved the Lincoln and claimed he would return to, quote, haunt his baby, unquote. He was killed in an air crash near Cosford shortly afterwards. Perhaps this explains the spectral figure who has been reported by staff at the museum, a figure seen sitting in the navigator's position in the nose or in the rear gun turret. Whether you believe the evidence presented here or not, Lincoln RF 398 has indeed a curious reputation. So if you visit Cosford, glance up at her cockpit window, and perhaps you'll see her last pilot staring right back at you. Happy Halloween.